Okay, so let's get through this, all right? No,
Oh,
just
stop.
kidding. All right, well, so I hope you don't mind I brought some modern technology because I was a little nervous about asking questions here. I know this is, vintage computer festival, but I brought this. Wait.
How many times did you write "Eat Up Martha" on there?
You stole my joke, you son of a gun. I had a whole little skit planned. No, you know what? I gotta go.
I am so.
Eat up Martha. All right, and then I have to throw it at Martin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Skit done, check. Okay, so, yeah. Hi, I'm Sean. I have a YouTube channel called Action Retro. Thank you. I'm very honored to have been asked to moderate this panel, which is our streamer content creator panel. And it's very exciting this year because we have quite a wide variety of folks up here. People who do YouTube, people who do Twitch, people who do a combination, people who do something called Amiga. It's very interesting. So I think what we'll do is we'll start just going down the line. I'll have everyone do a quick introduction, especially because our first person, I have trouble pronouncing the name. It was a big point of contention, so.
It is a
I'll
big
let you
point
go
of
first.
contention. Are you going to make me go first?
Yes.
Wow, thanks. Hi, my cat is fine. You can just call me Cat. The channel name is Lady Ailuros, and there's a whole big story behind that because I didn't want a bunch of numbers after my Twitch channel. But Cat is the name, and in my day job, as I said, I teach high school English, but I stream mostly Apple and Macintosh, but I have been known to stream DOS because Ultima. But I do all my streams from real hardware. You're good.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ash. I also go by AshSaidHi on Twitch. I stream on Twitch, and I upload all my VODs to YouTube, but I focus on retro gaming, so that means PlayStation 1, PS, Amiga, DOS, NES, Super Nintendo, and I love sharing the joy of retro gaming with my Twitch audience and helping to preserve gaming experiences so that way we can share them with the newer generation.
Good recovery.
Good catch.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ron from Ron's Computer Videos, but you probably know that by now. I do retro Macintosh content, Apple II stuff, just whatever kind of strikes me as interesting that week. I am Aquarius. I don't. This is video dating, right?
That's a different computer.
Yeah.
I'm Bill, also known as Amiga Bill. I stream on Twitch. I stream every Sunday, almost every Sunday. We call it the Sunday Fun Day, and I pretty much only do Amiga stuff. That's my real passion. And the coolest thing about the streams is just like hanging out with all my friends in the chat. It's kind of like a user group meeting because I also run the Westchester Amiga User Group. We started that back in 1988. Never stopped, never will. And it's kind of like hanging out. So they're like online user group meetings, and there's so much cool stuff happening in the Amiga community. It's pretty remarkable. Like so many people coming out with new games, like new software, new hardware. That I try and show that every week. Catch up on all the latest news, and hang out with all my friends. And the cool thing about Twitch is I got to meet people as well. It's like a small community, and that's how I met Lady Ailuros and Ash and Ron. I just met today, but it's all good. I'm a fan already.
Yeah. It was a really awkward 5 minutes at the food truck, but it worked out.
Well, I'm glad new friendships can be forged here at VCF. So I think it's so interesting that we have such a mix of people doing so many different things. We're streaming computers, we're streaming video games. I think one of the things when I do these sessions that comes up the most is that people have a lot of these machines at home. They want to share what they're working on. Maybe they want to stream it. Maybe they want to start trying to do a YouTube something or other. I mean, I don't know about this YouTube thing. I don't think it's going to catch on. But it seems like there's a big barrier to entry, right? And I think that kind of the secret is that there isn't a big barrier to entry. So I think I want to start talking about that. So I'm going to pick someone randomly, this guy right next to me. So Amiga Bill, How do you get your Amiga to talk to Twitch?
The trick is to get it to HDMI in my case. And then once you get to HDMI, there's just like a plethora of HDMI capture devices that you can get. So the Amiga has got RGB output. So I take the Amiga RGB output, and then it's an RGB to SCART cable. And then I plug that into a scaler. It's called the RetroTink. I got RetroTink 5 Pro. It's 5 Pro. And then that converts it to HDMI, upscales it, converts it to HDMI, and then I run it into a Magewell HDMI capture device. So that's how. And then I have the audio. The Amiga's got RCA audio outputs. So I take the RCA output and I put it into a mixer, and then the mixer is connected via USB to my streaming PC. And I use a software called OBS. It's free software, and it's pretty amazing. Oh, yeah. And that's how I get the Amiga in. And then I have a bunch of cameras. I've got a Magewell 4-channel card, and I have different cameras plugged into it because obviously I love the retro streaming. So I have a VHS camera. I've got an 8mm camera, and I've got a mini DV camera, and I got all different angles because I got cameras. So I got all these different angles set up, and I have one modern camera, a 1080p modern camera. That's like my main camera, but all the fun ones are the retro cameras. So
and how did you come to this setup? Did you do it all at once, or did you?
No, it was definitely an evolution. It's funny because I used to do more YouTube stuff with my buddy Anthony, and then he moved away, and the editing just took a long time for YouTube, and I didn't have a lot of time to do the editing. So even though I love YouTube, I was like, let me try to do some streaming because my dad used to be in radio production. He worked at a radio station. I love the live aspect of it. Yeah. So I was like, I'm gonna try doing some of these live streams. And at the time I was on YouTube, I was like, let me go practice on Twitch because I don't have any followers there. So I'm just gonna practice there and make mistakes and everything. And so I just went over to Twitch, and all of a sudden people started showing up. I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool. So people started showing up, and then I started meeting them and getting to know them online. And I was like, this is cool. It's like a small community. So I was like, I want to stay here and keep streaming here because everyone's really nice to hang out with.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's something I find in the retro community, too. Everybody, almost without fail, is extremely nice.
Yeah, for sure. But getting back to your original question, you don't really need fancy stuff to stream. All you have to do is really want to do it because it takes a lot of work to do it. And a lot of, if you're going to do it seriously, it takes a lot of work and dedication to do it, but to get in, it's very simple. You can even use your mobile phone and the Twitch app, and you're streaming right away. Start with that. You don't need any fancy stuff. You can get old 8mm cameras and stream from those. It's fine. It's cool, especially with the retro stream. So and there's so much. You can even use your phone as a camera as well. Oh yeah. Yeah, you can just attach your cell phone to OBS as well. So even if you don't have a camera, you can, most people have a phone. You can attach your phone to it. So the barrier to entry is really pretty low, actually.
Yeah, that's exactly how I started. And kind of the point I wanted to get down to is the barrier to entry. Someone like you has a very complex setup at this point that's kind of evolved over time. But yeah, my first setup was my Android phone duct taped to a stand pointed at a Mac. So yeah, the barrier to entry is lower than you might imagine, and then you can grow it from there as you discover what you need.
Which was really good, because I remember watching the very first video you made. You didn't have the camera pointing at the Mac. And so it was great, ASMR, but not very informative in terms of retro computing content.
Yeah, my first video was 12 minutes of the ceiling with no commentary. Okay, so I'd like to go over to AshSaidHi. Your videos, your Twitch streams rather, have a lot of video game content.
Yes.
I think I was watching you playing Nintendo 64 at one point.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I think there's a lot of ways you can get into it, and I like sharing how accessible it is, just like Bill was saying. So even if you have something like modern hardware, like you have a Nintendo Switch, right? You can always start off with Nintendo Switch Online, because that's easy to get into. All you need is a capture card that captures HDMI out. So that would make it accessible to having hardware that you can just buy in stock today, instead of looking for older games that may be hard to find, or you're wondering if they're working. Or if you don't even want to buy hardware and you want to just start off with whatever you have on your computer. You can get retro games on Steam. You can do Amiga Live. There's lots of ways that you can capture that gameplay. But the most important thing is having some kind of video software like OBS where you can capture your gameplay, and then, setting up an account on Twitch or YouTube, and then, starting to upload. But I think the most important thing, like Bill said, is to just do it. Like there have been so many wonderful people within the retro community that helped me to get started when I had no idea, like, well, how do I hook this up? Or, like, what wires do I need for this? And what's SCART and all that kind of stuff. Like, I had to learn, And so my dad, I inherited his Amiga 500. And I searched on Twitch. I was like, oh, I wonder if there's people who play Amiga games. And that's how I found Bill, which was really cool because it opened up my world to things like this. And then I started learning a little bit more. Okay, let's learn like Commodore 64 stuff. Let's learn ZX Spectrum. Let's learn DOS. I didn't grow up with a computer to play DOS games, so I only recently played Doom for the first time and things like that. So, but people loved living vicariously through me and those experiences, and being able to share that with audiences that either really loved it because they grew up with it or never experienced it and have always wanted to experience. I think it's really important to document those experiences and share it with others so we can continue this.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so some of the stuff you said about people living vicariously through it, I think that's so true. And before I even got into trying to reacquire some of my original, computer stuff, that's exactly how I was looking at this content online.
Yeah, it's joy, and the joy of nostalgia is like it has a deep emotional impact with people, and I love it because that's where the best conversations come from. Like, oh my gosh, like I used to play this Pac-Man game, and this was my high score back in this cabinet back in like 1984 or whatever. And then, like you've made that connection with somebody, and you can learn a lot about a person through those experiences.
Now, one other thing I wanted to ask you in particular, your streams today are very polished, and your voice sounds great and the gameplay looks great. I'm curious what the evolution of your stream was like.
Oh, God.
How would you compare your very start on Twitch to where you have it today, and what things, like one or two things that you've learned along the way that might help someone?
Oh, God. I started streaming in March of 2019. All I had was a Mac because I'm a graphic designer by trade. And so all I had was the built-in camera in the Mac. And I bought a capture card, and I had the built-in the microphone on the computer. I didn't have like a microphone or anything like that. And I just had, at the time, OBS didn't really work very well. We talked about this with the one sound channel.
Yes.
So when I streamed and used OBS, I couldn't hear the gameplay, which imagine trying to play a game in dead silence, and interacting with an audience. Don't do that. It's not fun. But I had Elgato HD capture software, and then I would just, hook up my Switch. And that's how I started, with everything that was just built in. But what I eventually did, because one of my friends was like, Ash, your camera stinks. Like, get rid of that. Like, you need to buy a camera. So I bought the Logitech C922 Pro, which is what I still use. And it's a pretty basic, webcam. And then eventually I bought a PC, and it's like Micro Center, like pre-build, like nothing special. Like as long as I could run OBS, I was like, good. And that's what I use even to this day. And I don't have a lot of, the only fancy stuff I have is like a RetroTink 2S and OSSC, and my hardware, like my Super Nintendo and PlayStation 2 and all that stuff. Like that's the fanciest things I have. But yeah, it evolved. And you're talking about polish. Like I said, I have a degree in graphic design, so I do all my overlays myself. And I just learned how to create a LUT to make my camera look a little bit nicer. And all of those things I just either learned word of mouth through other broadcasters, or I looked up tutorials on YouTube. But if there was a question that I was like, I don't know how to do this, I just asked somebody in the space, and they were willing to help me, which is why I love the retro community so much. Not only did they help me with retro games, but just streaming in general.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point in that there's kind of two things when you're starting out. One, so many people who do this kind of stuff put stuff out there and share their knowledge and experience. You know, when I first started, I watched a million videos about how to, I didn't know anything about cameras. I still don't really know anything about cameras. But I followed advice of people who put up videos about how to use a camera, how to use my specific camera, people who did, taught me how to do sound. So there's so much stuff out there. And then also the community is so important. Just talking to people. And, there's so many friendly, nice people out here doing this stuff. I met some really great friends. There's this Mac 84 fellow back there, Steve. I never really soldered anything before I started really getting into this stuff. And now, through advice and stuff from people like Steve who are really good at soldering. That's 2 call-outs. I'll expect payment after this. Yeah, there's just I can't stress enough how amazing our little community here is. Yeah. I'd like to go to Lady Ailuros.
You can just call me Kat. That's fun.
Did I say I said Ailuros?
You said it right, but Kat is fun.
Okay, so I'd like to go down to Kat here, and I'd like to know a little bit about your streaming and video origin story.
Oh, wow. My origin story is I was at Kansas Fest 2019, and I said probably the most dangerous words on the planet, which is, I wonder if. And I, through trial and error, I'm the rare exception. I'm standing on the shoulders of giants over here because I was like, okay, I have a crappy MacBook. And so I actually did have an initial outlay to get started streaming. I got a lot of stuff used. So never underestimate. I bought a used Mac Pro Tower, and then I've been tricking that out for now however long I've had it. And like this, and then so I've gotten a lot of stuff used, and I've gotten a lot of stuff from the community. If you say, hey, I want to do this, people have stuff laying around and they'll give it to you. That's how I ended up. To stream from DOS, for example, DOS puts out a really, really weird screen resolution. This gizmo is called an Extron, and they're really kind of a pain in the butt to get a hold of. Sometimes they're really expensive. And somebody I know is like, oh, yeah, no, I used to work in production. I have a bunch of those in my house. Do you want one? And I was like, yeah, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. So, don't be afraid to ask. But yeah, no, I futzed around, and I started out with my Apple IIgs, and I put it into one of these. This is a RGB to HDMI scaler. It works. That's all I'm going to say. But then it works. But it was really blown out. And then so I was streaming. I got into the Apple II because I've always been into the Apple II. And then somebody was like, again, with the community being so amazing, I was doing live bug testing of Total Replay on my stream with the devs, filing GitHub reports while I'm failing at playing these games. And somebody, he said, he's like, yeah, your stream's really blown out, blah, 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 blah. A week later, a VidHD showed up in my mailbox. And I'm like, are you sure? And it's like, I'm one of those, like, don't give me, I don't feel like I deserve to be given stuff. So I'm like, why are people giving me stuff? And they're like, because the community wants you to succeed. So now I have the VidHD for the 2GS, and I'm also on the Elgato and OBS train, but I'm not on the PC train. I am about to give Apple way too much money because I'm getting a studio.
Nice.
But everything I have is all set up for Mac. So that's at the very beginning, when you start out, think about where you're going to. This is hard, But maybe I would have gone PC 5 years ago because it would have been easier. But I got myself stuck in the walled garden. But no, just the community is where it's at. Did I answer the question?
Yes, you answered
good.
that and reiterated community, which
Okay.
I love. Now, Ron, speaking of community, I think it's safe to say that you are a pillar of our community.
I'm just really tall.
That's what I meant. Yeah. It wasn't figurative at all.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. I also want to thank you for being the moderator of the panel today, and it
Thank you.
not being a timeshare presentation. I had my worries at first, but those have been dissuaded now, so thank you very much. Actually, what got me started, my channel is so old that it used to be Google Video. Who remembers Google Video? Yeah. So and I held out so long that they were like, listen, bro, we're just gonna convert your channel. And so they moved it over. But when it all started out, it was basically just me rubbing rocks together, and hoping that the right people would like it. But and these guys are absolutely correct that really what you got to do to get started is you just got to start. Because you will come up with a million excuses about why you can't do something, when the correct answer is just get off your ass and do it. There are a million webcams out there. You can start with a webcam that's built into your machine. You can start with, like, I got a hand-me-down setup from someone else that was upgrading, and it gave me the confidence to get started. But just get in front of the camera, put a light. That's the big thing. Put a light on whatever that thing is. Because if you watch my early videos, it's like, I'm not saying that they're the Zapruder film. No presidents were harmed in any of these videos. But the quality, the grain of just, it's not great. So make sure you shine a light on whatever it is, aim the camera at the thing. Again, good advice for you, Sean. And then speak into the microphone. And whatever it is that you're excited about, it doesn't have to be something that is that everybody likes this thing, because again, there's a lot of people that occupy those spaces. But if it's something that you're excited about, that comes through in your presentation, and the right people will get it. The right community of people will understand those things. So when I started out, again, it was just like some kind of like Microsoft webcam that was like something that was in e-waste. And it was just like, all right, I'm just going to shoot the thing, put it on a tripod, see what happens. No cuts, no edits. It's just like a long thing that just wouldn't end. It's like a bad date. And at the end, you got a free meal out of it, so it's fine. But the end product, and it was like somebody actually left a comment on my like first video when I kind of was like, I'm going to try to form this into something that isn't just like hot awfulness. And they were just like, you can edit your video. You can put edits. You put edits in there. And so what I did is like, it was basically the next video opens with me scrolling and reading all the stuff. And it was just like, I get to that comment and I kind of zoom on it and I'm just like, "Ah!" And then it cuts. I'm at Best Buy. I'm buying stuff. I'm throwing it on the table. And then it's the introduction that my videos typically start with now. So it was just about like throwing something out there, testing the waters, seeing what you got to do, and then you kind of build with time. And you'll get better lights if you stick with it. You'll get better cameras if you stick with it. But you'll never stick with it if you don't start.
Yeah, and then about that's a good point. And then about the equipment, you have to it doesn't matter how expensive your camera is or how expensive your microphone is. You just have to like use it properly. So like if you have a $40
Absolutely.
camera, that's fine, but make sure you put the light near the camera and like on the front of your face instead of having the light behind you.
Yep.
And if you have you can have someone with like a $25 microphone can sound better than someone with a $400 microphone if the $400 microphone is like too far away and it doesn't sound good. So it's just also just learning how to use the equipment. It's just not. You don't need the fanciest, most expensive stuff. So like,
Yeah.
don't let that be a barrier.
My current rig is what I do is I wait for Bill to fall asleep. and when the cadence of his breathing indicates that he has entered the deepest level of sleep, I set my stuff up and film it. And then I'm gone. It's like Santa Claus.
Wow.
This is being recorded, right?
Wait a minute, what?
Whoops. But I think one other thing that's important to say is like people can't find you if you don't show up. So I think, like you said, just do it and don't I know it takes a long time to be confident about a new skill, but I don't know. I just kind of tend to throw myself in there, and I've found that just showing up and throwing myself into something has at least given me the first stepping stone to being successful. Because if I didn't try, that's like 0%. But if I tried, okay, there's a 1% chance that it could succeed. So just do it.
Yeah, that there is a point that I was going to reiterate as well, because when I first started doing video, not only did I have no idea what I was doing, but it was so far outside of my comfort zone. Like my very first video, I didn't even talk. I didn't want to. Yeah. And then I wasn't in the videos as someone is gesturing. It was just my hands waving around. I was extremely uncomfortable doing it, but I really wanted to share what I was working on, and just, I was really inspired by the community of other people doing this stuff. And now here I am next to these giants.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, the only barrier to entry really is just yourself and just starting. And another thing that I've heard people say is, how can I compete with, so-and-so is doing such beautiful videos? How can I compete with LGR doing incredibly, polished, awesome, watchable videos? But, I don't think there is competition so much as people just, this is a community. The more people sharing what they're working on, the better it's preserved. If you're, totally interested in something and it's not well covered out there, by all means, please cover it. Show it off, preserve it so people can learn and see, and that information can be out there.
And everybody has a different voice, right? I have watched the same streamers play the same game because the way that everybody reacts to different things is so different. And I want to see what's going to happen when that person gets to this part of the game? Oh, they're going to and then you see that's the interesting part. Just what everybody's voice is going to be. And, people are looking for you, they're looking for your unique talent, your unique enthusiasm. So I think that's really important to recognize, because I feel like that's a big thing in this space is that, oh my God, am I worth it? That self-sabotage or that imposter syndrome, don't even think about that.
So wait, you have a camera in my house is what you're telling me.
It just I don't know. I guess I just learned to just throw yourself into it and have fun.
Yeah, at the beginning, it's going to be hard. I remember streaming to an empty room, but you got to keep you have to practice. Just Bob, I love quotes. I love cliches. Bob Ross, it's always practice. We're always practicing. And yes, you're streaming. You're doing your spiel to an empty room, but you're learning how to do it, and then you can go back and watch it, and then you can, I'd like to change this. I want to change this. Maybe I should. You have to be, you have to be willing to learn and grow from your own mistakes.
I think what I get the most experience with is schedule a live stream, do the stream, then hit go live.
Smart.
Wait a minute.
I've done that.
I did a stream Prince of Persia. I did the whole stream. I'm narrating the whole thing, went through, beat the whole game, and then somebody was like, "Are you gonna start? What's the deal?"
And make sure you're.
Oh wow, you got to click the button. And so I clicked the button, and I was like, "Hey everybody, let's do this again," and just went through the thing.
Did you beat it again?
No.
It's hard.
I don't.
Yeah, that's a hard.
I don't think
you beat it once.
Yeah, I was right at the end, and it was nope, sorry, 1 hour. I'm like, oh. Well,
Which brings up an important point. You do have to, practice before you go live for the first time. One of the things I like about OBS is you can also do a local recording.
Yeah.
Do a couple local recordings and watch them. See how how do you sound? How do you look? Are you washed out? Are you this? Are you that? And then, if you're, use that to build your confidence.
That is a really good point. when you do start, watch your VODs. I know people are like, I don't like the sound of my voice. Well, get over it, because somebody is going to be listening to it and they're going to have thoughts on that. So just watch. And I think one other thing that's helpful too is having having a concept. Like, what do I want to focus on? Because if you're like, oh, I'm going to do variety, well, what does that mean? Like, who are you going to capture if you don't know, like, exactly who you want to talk to and how you want to talk to them? So I know I love Super Nintendo RPGs, right? That's going to hit a very core audience, and I'm going to have very specific things that I'm going to say that are going to connect with certain people. And because I have that direction, at least if I have that direction, it's going to give me some kind of like, okay, this is like the skeleton of what I should do, instead of wandering aimlessly like, well, I have no idea. Are people even going to like this? So that helps.
So I'd like to metaphorically switch gears a little bit. I don't know how to drive a car.
Okay,
Standard
I didn't see you
age.
hit the clutch once,
You
so
push the clutch.
we're not doing great.
All right, okay, I'm in neutral. Now what? Okay, so Ron,
Yes.
you do more than just make videos and content. You've created things that are physical. I'd like to know how you got started doing that, and what exactly is it that you make?
Well, I guess when a man and a woman love each other very much.
Ron, Ron,
my son?
This is being recorded. Ron,
Okay, well, no.
Family stream, Ron.
Actually-
Family stream.
I know. Something that got me really, really excited is watching other people do things and getting inspiration from that. Like, I see, like, my friend Joe, jcm-1.com.
Strohsnyder. It's not that hard.
It's tough for me. But he makes all these neat things, and Javier and all these people in the community make all this fun stuff. And I wanted to make some little fun things. And so I sat down and I learned KiCad, and then I threw away KiCad. And then I used Easy EDA, because that's what, like, GLC PCB, that's like their free tool and stuff. And it's like if you would compare, like, KiCad is sort of like Photoshop, and Easy EDA is sort of like KidPix. And I like that. So I was able to just go through and make some fun things and stuff and put them out in the community, because I keep seeing people do fun things, and I want to be part of that fun stuff that people are doing. And also I have access to a 3D scanner. So if you're one of the 400 trillion humans that bought a Apple adjustable keyboard back in the day and then immediately threw it away, the little kind of elbow rests or wrist rests and stuff like that. Like, that's the most common missing thing. I found somebody in the community that had one. They loaned me the part. I scanned the part. Worked with a friend of the Macintosh librarian, cleaned up the models, put them out there for free. So it's sort of like, so people can turn around and kind of make those things too. So getting started in that was really tough, because it's just like you got to wrap your brain around like all of that modeling and all of the procedural stuff you have to do for some of those things. But I don't know, that's been as rewarding, if not more rewarding, than streaming and just doing nice things for the community.
yeah, there's so much stuff that people have contributed to the community: hardware, software, 3D printed stuff. Like, if you look on, Thingiverse, or if you look on Tindy, there are so many projects that people, and they're all just passion projects.
Yeah, absolutely. I see, especially when there's something where there's like a need, because there's a lot of stuff out there where it's just like, oh, it's like a one-of-a-kind part, or it's really hard to find, or it's a power supply for some machine, or it's some like common failure point for people getting in the hobby of retro computing or whatever, that people just step up and make those items. Sort of like a lot of the reloaded boards for like Amiga and Macintosh, and there's other things that aren't necessarily like the reloaded branding, but are replacement boards. Like, Bill probably knows, like, because that's a huge thing in the Amiga community, where batteries just tear those boards up, and you've got all these custom chips, you've got all this custom stuff. You find somebody that makes the reproduction board, you move all this stuff over, and it's a whole nother 20, 30 years of enjoyment out of all that stuff. So I stand on the shoulders of giants too with all of this, because I'd be nowhere in this if it wasn't for people that just took number one, thank you for your patience. That's the number one thing I always say to people. But if it would not be for people that took an active interest in my success, I would be nowhere. And so I think that is so important to keep paying that forward. Like every time I do something where it's just like, it's cute, but I would be nowhere if it wasn't for people like Sean, like just being nice and saying like, even just a retweet on something, where it's like, hey, I saw this thing you did and it was cool. And so, boop, you know, but little kindnesses make all the difference.
And you've never designed a PCB before you designed that stuff?
No, I just, well, if you saw any of the designs, you might not still say that, but it's like making a 2-layer board is really not that difficult. It's again with the tools and things where you can just lay out and it's like, show me the front of the board, show me the back of the board. We're gonna get fancy. We'll throw in a ground plane. But doing some of those things, it really just sits down, and again, it's talking with patient people that are interested in your success and are willing to answer the dumb questions and get you over all your stumbles and things like that. And it was the same thing for streaming, because I would ask people and just be like, what camera are you using? What lighting are you using? Or hey, tell me about I like the shot you did. Tell me about the shot composition. And it's like, and most people are very, very willing to tell you how they did something. Because, again, they're just kind of like, they wouldn't know if somebody didn't tell them. So it's just that keep paying that thing forward, helping other people, and just, doing your best to make fun things.
That's awesome. Yeah, I just want to say, I think it's so incredible that you went from like zero to creating a PCB, a project, a product that people can then use. And I have, you know. That's incredible.
That's really great. Thank you very much. It's and really it's just kind of it's identifying a need and then doing your best to kind of fill that need. And there might be like 6 other people that are making the exact same thing, but much like you were saying about flavor, that's like an important thing. Like you might see it from a different angle than somebody else, and then when you do that thing, that might resonate with people in a different way. It's not maybe like all that different, but they like your take on it.
Nice. So, okay. We're talking about people building projects, building new stuff, especially new stuff for vintage computers. Now, I don't know if you people are interested in this, but I want to talk for just a minute or two about vintage computers themselves. So I hope you're all okay with that. Mr. Amiga Bill, I recently acquired an Amiga 500.
Yes.
I don't know much about Amigas. And I think you do. So I'd like to know maybe what are some of your favorite modern projects for old Amigas, and tell me what I should do with my Amiga 500, please, because I'm in the dark.
Oh, cool. Well, you're in good shape because the Amiga 500 is like the sweet spot for Amigas. It's when the first Amiga to come out was like the 1000, and then the 500. It was quite expensive, and then the 500 was a more budget-friendly version of the 1000. And it's the best-selling Amiga, of all the machines in the line, and it's the one where most of the real classic things happened. Like as far as gaming goes, like at the sweet spot, like 1 megabyte Amiga 500 is perfect. And they have so one of the coolest expansions you can get. The original one came with 512K of RAM. You can expand it to 1 megabyte, which is important to do. And there's a new board out from Individual Computers. They're fantastic. They're a European company, and they make tons of third-party Amiga stuff. And it's called the ACA 500 Plus. And it allows you to use a compact flash card as a hard drive on your Amiga 500. And it's got 2 compact flash cards. One you can use as a hard drive, and then one you can format FAT32, so you can transfer the files over from a modern PC to it really easily. So that's a really key piece of equipment. And it's got an attachment on it that allows you to use another product from Individual Computers. You can put an accelerator card onto it. So you can add like an 030 board onto your ACA 500 Plus, and then you've got an Amiga 500 with an 030. So that I think that's the coolest expansion for the 500. Some more simple ones, there's something called an RGB to HDMI. That's really neat. It's a little Raspberry Pi Zero that will fit onto your Denise chip, and then we'll give you HDMI out, and it's like really good quality HDMI out from your Amiga 500. So you don't need like a scaler. You don't have to get like a RetroTink or a open source scan converter. Those are cool because if you have multiple Amigas, you can just take those, or multiple computers and move them between the computers. But the RGB to HDMI is awesome. The quality is great, and it's just really fantastic little device. So I love RGB to HDMI and ACA 500 plus are good starting points for you.
Nice.
And also I'm a big fan of like original hardware. So I love having a floppy drive in there. But there's other devices called a GoTech drive, and it lets you use an SD card to load Amiga ADF files, Amiga disk files onto it.
Nice.
And then there's another one called oh man, sometimes my brain stops working. It lets you keep your. Dave has got it here in our exhibit. It lets you, the Go Drive. Mm-hmm. It lets you keep your original floppy drive, and you can attach like a GoTech type device to it as well. So you can either load via floppy or load via SD. So that's really cool because you can keep your original floppies and have the option of ADF files.
Nice.
Bill, do they have FujiNet working on the Amiga yet?
Where's Thomas Chariot? Thomas.
It's on our list to bring up. If you want to help, please come to Discord.
Thomas is the man with the FujiNet.
Oh, I know he is.
Yeah.
Now, something you mentioned on one of our previous pre-show calls is that you like to have a stock machine and then like a super upgraded machine. So I just want to ask, what's your most upgraded Amiga system?
My most upgraded Amiga is an Amiga 1200. It's a PAL machine because they really embraced the Amiga in Europe. Like they love the Amiga. Oh man, they love it over there. It's wild. So I've got a PAL machine because a lot of the new games and I love the demo scene as well. I love playing demos on Amiga. They're all on PAL. So I needed a PAL. I mean, you can switch the Amiga 1200 between the NTC and PAL, but I was like, I don't want to switch. I just want to go right to PAL. So I've got a PAL Amiga 1200. And then I took out the spinning platter hard drive and I put a 4 gigabyte compact flash card in there. That was step one. Then I've got a Terrible Fire accelerator card in there. So it's a Terrible Fire with an 060. So the Amiga 1200 comes with an 020.
Yeah.
So I've got it upgraded to an 060 running at 50 megahertz. You can, if you have a Rev 6 060, you can get up to like 100 megahertz. But mine's running at 50, nice and stable. I love design and I love like the look of things. So I've recased it. I put it in like this translucent case. My other friend, Rob Cranley, is a genius. He made this thing called the Solus board, and it plugs into the clock port on the Amiga 1200, and it controls RGB LED lights. So I got this RGB LED lights in there. You can program it in different patterns. And the Amiga 1200's got RF audio output, so you can like connect this little lead to the RF out, and it'll hear the sound, and it'll sync the LED lights with the sound. It's amazing. And I've got a GoX drive, which is like the GoTech drive in there for loading the SD cards. It's called a Bifrost, so it replaces the original LEDs on the Amiga, and you can program it. They say like a million different colors. I never tried, but there's a lot of stuff you can do with it.
Wow.
So and then I've got a PC MSI8, a compact flash card adapter in the side, so it makes it easy to share files between my real PC and the Amiga, or my Mac and the Amiga. So yeah, it's pretty pimped. I like it.
That is incredible.
Yeah, it's fun. Oh, and I got a new a wireless tank mouse for it. That was another cool Amiga project. So they took the original tank mouse design, and then they made it into a laser mouse, and it's wireless as well, and that's really cool. So yeah, and it's got like a scroll. It's not a scroll wheel. It's like a virtual scroll, a touch pad scroll on it too. So, but the new Amiga OS, the 3.2, has got that built in, so you can scroll. You can scroll your windows with the touchpad, which is cool.
Wow. I'm going to go back to my stock Amiga 500 and be immensely jealous.
No,
What you've
I'm
just
telling you, it's a
described.
sweet spot. I love the stock
That's
500.
amazing.
Yeah, you're
Wow,
good.
That's amazing.
And the cool thing about the ACF 500 is that it plugs into the Zorro port on the side, so you're not actually changing your machine at all. So you're just plugging it in, and you're not changing your original Amiga, which is really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So in line with that, I think what I want to talk about now, which I personally find interesting, is people's first computers, either computer experience or computer that you've owned. So for me personally, when I was growing up, my parents did not trust computers at all, right? We didn't have a computer in the house. My very first computer I bought at a flea market myself in middle school. It was a 286 laptop. Wasn't color, but me at that time, I thought maybe there was color. I just couldn't tell. So I'm trying to play like Wolfenstein 3D. I'm like, I think I see a little bit of blue in there. So that was my first computer experience. I fell in love with programming, writing QBasic on there. So very fond memories of that 286 machine. But I'd like to start down at the end. Kat, what was your first computer or computer experience?
Oh my goodness. The very first computer experience I can remember is I think I was in kindergarten, and they took us down to the cafeteria, and there was an Apple II. and they let us play, if anybody remembers, this game called it was called Ernie's Quiz, and I remember counting jelly beans, but to me, it wasn't the counting jelly beans, it was, this thing is glowing, this thing is shiny, and when I hit a button on this thing, it makes noise, and it does things, and I can make it do the things. And at that, and it's just, and then I think I really got hooked in third grade. I'm a product of the when your elementary school teacher would sign the computer out from the library for 2 weeks, and the 2 weeks that my third grade teacher had it, I went through an awful lot of pencils because it was by the pencil sharpener until she sat me down and said, "You need to stop. You will get your turn. Go back to your desk and do your math." And then I was, I was lucky in that my father was a industrial arts teacher, and he kind of saw this coming, so he got us a 2C when I was in like 5th grade. And so I was lucky enough to have one from a very, very, very young age.
Yeah, Ash?
My turn. Okay. So, like I said, I inherited my dad's Amiga 500, right? So this is like the very first thing I could think of. Like, I didn't play it a lot, but I remember watching him, and I remember that he would turn on the Amiga and like the mouse, like the pointer, like he could make it do a trail, And I remember being so fascinated with like, oh, when the mouse moves, it does a trail. That's so cool. And I remember watching him play Dungeon Master. And it terrified me because one time he was playing and he was up to like a particular level and all the monsters like killed his whole party, and the skull and crossbones logo would come up on their like pictures, and I was like, what, they all died? Like, what's going on? And then he got the game over screen, and for some reason, that just like scared the crap out of me. I don't know why, but I remember watching him play that. I remember watching him play Eye of the Beholder. Oh, and we also had an SX64, and we used to play this like taxi game together where you had to land and then pick up people and then take them to like, yeah, there you go. Yeah, so we used to play that. I still have the SX64, and although the screen is not working, but I still have it, and the Amiga 500. But those were like me watching, but like me actually using a computer. I had a Gateway machine that was like my first actual computer that was mine. And the first games that I really got into playing was Pool of Radiance, and I think I got into Guild Wars for MMO. Yeah.
Nice. Ron?
I used to live in South Carolina, as you can tell by my accent. And the school that I went to, we had an Apple II Plus. And it sat in the library, and nobody really did anything with it. And I just happened to be in the library one day, and the librarian was, I guess, feeling very generous and took me over and showed me Logo on the machine. And I know that that is like a core memory, core computing experience for a lot of people, but sat down and just kind of learned Logo, and I drew a little version of the little school's logo in the application. And I showed it to saved it and showed it to the librarian, and she was like, wow, that's really, really neat. I guess at some point that week, she showed it to the principal. And the principal thought it was really neat. Well, then we put the Apple II on a cart with the television. So I had to disappoint people because we went room to room, and I ran the program and showed it, and it drew the little logo for everybody because everybody thought it was movie time. No, it's boring computer time. But everybody looked at it, and everybody's like, wow, that's really, really neat. Well, the next week I went to go book computer time in the library and couldn't because everybody wanted to go and do that. That's cool. And so totally screwed myself over on being able to use the computer. But I did get the benefit that I had to go back afterwards and delete other people's rude projects that they drew. Because you wouldn't believe how quick they figured out, oh, I can draw that. And so, yeah. So they were like, Ronnie, if you could just come in here and just make this fit for company, we would really appreciate it. But that's like where I got my start, and I love that, and I still do. And when my son got old enough to go to school, one of his teachers had been teaching at this school for 30 years. They had an Apple IIe in the classroom. No floppy drives, no software, no display. It just sat in the corner because she's like, I just want the kids to know what computers were like. And I was like, do you want to fix this up? And she was like, yeah, absolutely. So we kitted it all out, rebuilt the power supply. Everything was 100% ready to go. And up until she retired, she showed other people or like younger kids like how to use Logo and Lemonade Stand and all those old fun apps and stuff. So it was very gratifying to kind of see that kind of continue on for a little while.
Wow, that's heartwarming. Yeah. Bill, was your first experience on an Amiga?
No, it wasn't. It was actually in 1980. My dad. I'm really lucky because it's actually quite an expensive computer, but he just like was interested in investing in me, and he liked computers too. He brought home an Atari 800, and I still have that computer to this day. I absolutely love it. It's probably my favorite computer outside of the Amiga. And one thing that a lot of people, well, this crowd probably knows, but I didn't know until like later on is that one of the main designers of the Atari 800 is Jay Miner, and then he also was one of the main designers of the Commodore Amiga. Of the Amiga. So I just got it. So when I get the Atari, it was like, I love that machine. And then when I was really attracted to the Amiga, and I really think that has something to do with Jay Miner and like his team. And I know like Joe DeCure was on that team as well. And yeah, it was it's a magical machine. I don't know, there was something about it just captured my imagination. I was a big Pac-Man fan, and like the Pac-Man 2600 just didn't cut it for me. But the Pac-Man on the Atari 800 was like, it was really close to the arcade. I was always trying to get close to the arcade because I love arcades. So the Atari 800 Pac-Man, I love that. There was something about that computer that was special. I had a modem for it, and then I used to love sports games. So there was this game called Star League Baseball, and then if you won the game, like it was a hard game. If you beat the game, you could like take a photo of the monitor, like a screenshot, like with a 35 millimeter film camera, and then you could send in your picture to the Game Star. I think they made the game, and then they would send you like a membership card, like you're in the club. So on there, so it was really hard to beat, and like it was awesome. It was like one day, like all like I was doing really well, and then like all the neighbors were over the house. And they were like watching me play the game, and I was like sweating, and I finally I beat the game, and everyone's like standing up and cheering, like yeah. And then we got the Pentax Spotmatic F camera out, and we took a picture of the screen. I sent it in, and I got my membership card. I still have it. I still got my membership card. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, well, I think we have a few minutes left for questions. Again, I don't know what I'm doing, so I don't know if I'm timing this appropriately, but I think I am. So I don't know if we're going to have a microphone or not, but I can probably hear you, and we have one right up here. Yes, sir.
Thank you all for coming. And a couple of you, I think, mentioned GoTech. So I've tried.
Hi. You mentioned GoTech, and I've seen YouTubers mention it online and stuff. So I go, how do you buy one? I went to buy one, and it's like wholesale and sold in lots of 10, and I'm like, what? Like, where are people getting these?
Geez, I think I got mine on eBay. I think Amazon has, sellers on Amazon. I think you can buy pre-flashed ones with the right firmware, too. I don't know if anyone else has experience with it.
I ended up buying mine on eBay just because it was configured and ready to go.
Yeah.
So, and it's for the machine I was using it in, it included like a bezel and everything. So it was just turnkey. And I think that people kind of have that figured out, that is like not a very opaque sort of a clear kind of experience of how to get everything that you need. So yeah, like those resellers are probably a good way to go.
Yeah, I got mine on my original one I got on eBay. But then, like, if you want one specific, like for the Amiga, there's like Amiga online retailers that will sell them all set up for Amiga as well. And I have one called a Go X drive, which is similar to a GoTech drive, but it already comes like with a bracket that fits inside whatever Amiga you tell them like you want it to fit inside of. And then it's got a cool like external OLED display too, so you can put that outside, like on top of your case, and then you can select like which ADF file you want to do. So. Yeah, if you want, If you want to come by my booth, I'll show you. I've got the Go X drive there, and Dave has got the Go drive, the one that lets you have the floppy drive, and the GoTech style drive too.
Nice.
Bill, will they be able to help me get a floppy inside my CD32?
Maybe.
Yes. Any other questions? Oh, we have
Yeah, hi. So just a comment. So first off, your ability to drive, stay away from my Civic Si. You know? Yeah. All right. But secondly, so I literally just put an ACA 500 plus like a month ago in my 500 plus.
How do you like it?
Yeah, it's great. So I had a PyStorm in there, but I was having a ton of compatibility issues. I guess PyStorms are great for games, but if you want to run real programs like Deluxe Paint or any of the music programs, yeah, it crashes, you get weird errors. It didn't seem to work very good, so I had to come up with another solution. So the ACA 500 is great. I mean, I haven't had any issues with it whatsoever. So I did have a problem with one of my flash cards being incompatible. It's real picky about the flash cards. Get smaller ones. I got some 4 gig ones. They're fine. But yeah, other than that, great. Can recommend enough. Another great upgrade for the 500 is Indivision makes is their scan doubler.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that replaces the Denise chip and gives you a VGA out. And yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it's definitely a worth it upgrade. So.
Nice.
Yeah, it's called the Indivision. That would be the ECS. Yeah, Indivision. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's the same company that makes the ACA 500 Plus. Yeah, Jens is awesome. He's a good guy.
Yeah, I love all this.
Yeah.
A ton of there.
Whatever you get from them is going to be like great quality.
How you doing, Sean? Panel, appreciate you guys coming out today. Sean, I could not let you just get out of here. What Newton is that, and have you put haiku on it yet?
I've got Haiku running at my exhibit right now, and inside Haiku, I have BOS running in QEMU. So, yeah.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Thanks. Hi, guys. I'm Ken. I have a YouTube channel also. Sean, you were helping me out by giving me some sponsorship advice a couple of months ago.
Nice.
You may remember. And I look at you guys like streamers and publishers that do this with full-time jobs multiple times a week sometimes. And I know for me, it takes me between like 30 and 60 hours to make a video. What am I doing wrong? Like, or are you guys just like do you sleep? Are you way more dedicated than me?
I mean, I only stream once a week, and I keep this very low key because I never want this to be. That's kind of I never want this to be my job. I want this to stay a hobby. I want this to stay something fun that I do to hang out with my friends once a week and archive software. So now it's like, look, here's a whole playthrough of this game. I don't ever want this to be my job. So have a boundary, set a boundary, don't go past it.
Well, I'll just say that fun announcement. So I decided to do this full time now because, yeah. So I did have a full-time job, and you're not far off from how long videos can take. You know, I got a little bit better with it over time, but just, you know, it can be difficult to balance it. You know, I would say that pick a schedule that is not going to burn you out because, it's a lot of fun when you're doing the thing, but there's a lot of other things that wind up going into it, and research and editing and all of that stuff. So yeah, keep the fun in it is the most important thing, and don't burn yourself out. This is a very joyful thing that we're all doing.
Yeah, I think that's also why understanding your intent is important. Understanding what you want to do and what you want to get out of it, and that way it will give you some direction, and you won't waste time doing things twice or waste time doing things like, oh, I didn't need to do that. So if you're understanding your intent, and then you're understanding how to spend your time. But I mean, honestly, for streaming, the workload, yes, I will spend a lot of hours working on things outside of stream, but it is a different beast than pre-recorded content. So maybe think about pre-recorded content takes up this amount of time. If I ever want to get into streaming, how much time will that take? And maybe decide which's best.
I think you do a couple of streams where, and as a graphic artist, I'm sure you understand the amount of time and effort that goes into building that brand and that look of whatever it is that you're doing. Mm-hmm. But once you have that built, if you stick with it for a while, you can just concentrate on like doing whatever it is that you want to do. And OBS is really, really great for build a scene where it's like, this is me in an introduction. This is me with like channel logos. This is me with like the inputs of whatever the thing is. And you can just sit there and it's like, it would just be like working in college television where you're sitting at a mixing board and you have the Amiga and you've got like your 3/4 deck and then you've got like a mix pan or you've got sliders and it's basically bring this up, bring this down, switch this mic, switch this down, do this thing, just do it all on the fly and then just hit stop. And whatever it is you've got, just put it out there. Yep. And again, the right people will get it. Yep. And if it takes 60 hours, if that's your workflow, then that's what it takes. And you just optimize over time. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It just means that that's your workflow. But there's a lot of times where I did this video recently, and it's because I have like some manner of problem with my brain, where I went through and I was like, you know what the kids today are into? They want to know how fast IDE drives are on old Macs. And so I went through and I was like, I should just benchmark. This is a 20-minute video. And so I just go through and I benchmark a couple things and I take some screenshots and I'm like, yeah, this looks great. This is perfect. And then Colin from Does Not Compute came out with a video and it was all this stuff. And I was like, you son of a gun. And I was like, because I didn't think about this other part of it. And then it spiraled and it spiraled and it spiraled. And then by the time I was done, I was like, okay, so what I did is I put this thing on there and then I put this driver and then I troubled and then I went through and I did the benchmarking, but then I put this other driver and then I put the other version of the driver. And but by the time it was done, Colin's video is like 10 minutes. My video is like 20 minutes because I'm just like sitting there like just not able to just get to what I was trying to say. And I got in my own way on the video. Thank you for watching, because the AdSense, they don't care. they're like 20 minutes. But it's just kind of one of those things. But that was my workflow on it. It probably, if you'd have given it to Colin, it'd been more enjoyable. But if you gave it to Colin, it would have been like a 10-minute video. But it was just my workflow. And I can't beat myself up too much. That I just did it that way. But you'll know what's right. And again, just put it out there and just do like that quick, like try it with the OBS and just see what it looks like and just put it out there. Because the worst thing that will happen is people will give you hopefully constructive feedback. Don't listen to people, that didn't come up, but it's like don't listen to people that don't give a crap about what you do anyway. Because those people, any advice they give you is going to be bad and it's going to be self-serving. Like people that are like, you know what, Shorts ran over my dog with their car and I hate Shorts and you're bad and you should feel bad. And then you've got like, you do a bunch of numbers on Shorts and you're like, I feel really good about that content because it's just like silly stuff. Or whatever. Do what makes you happy, and then just do it is kind of like with that process and see what happens. Sorry, I talked forever.
That was great advice. And something I've learned is that, hey, this will be a short video is never.
No, it's never
quick.
Never.
Never quick.
So you talked a bit at the beginning about how it's important to do this stuff so that people can live vicariously, maybe having experiences that they never got to or still can't have themselves. But I'm wondering, is there any machine or piece of software or whatever that you have gotten to use because of the community you've built that you would have never gotten to otherwise? And you can fight over who has the coolest answer, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I got into Twitch and I never knew the world of like Sierra point and clicks. Never heard of it. I didn't. I just didn't have a computer. Yeah. But, right. Yes. Right. So then that's why when I was seeing, like, what is King's Quest? Oh, my God. This is awesome. And then I played it myself. And because of those people that I found in the retro community, I'm, like, exposed to this whole new world now. For example, I just bought a Dreamcast 2 weeks ago.
I'm so jealous of your Dreamcast, by the way.
I never had one. I never grew up with a lot of Sega consoles. So that was because like I'm like seeing people play like, you know, all these cool games and I'm like, now I want to stream that stuff now. But most of it for me was like old PC like DOS games that I never heard of and I'm like, what's, Police Quest? What's this? What's that? Like, what's Zach McCracken? And I found out about Maniac Mansion, and I could not put it down for like 12 hours. I'm like, I got to figure out how to beat this game. So that's my answer.
Well, my answer would be right here at VCF East. Was it last year or the year before? But the Xerox Alto was here, and I got to play billiards on that thing. Man, I never thought I would see one of those things in person, and I've always dreamt about being able to touch one, just being able to like see it. It's booted up, it's running its software, loaded billiards, and was surprised at how well it worked too.
Oh, you know what was like that for me? The Sharp X68000. I never thought I would see one in real life, and I saw one because of an event I went to, and I was like, whoa, this is awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, and for me, it was like a lot of, like I said, Amiga is really popular in Europe, so I wasn't really familiar with the European computers. So I was like, what's the ZX Spectrum? And they're like, dude, it's Z. And I'm like,
Someone has done that to me too. I was like, ZX Spectrum, they're like, ZX.
Yeah. So I got introduced to a lot of the European computers through streaming, which is cool. Yeah, and of course, VCF East. This is amazing. I love coming to these shows, and I see all kinds of stuff that I never saw before. But yeah, I guess the streaming directly was my connection to Europe and the European machines.
Yeah, I think for me, dad teacher meant most of the software we had was Eduware. So I didn't, because dad had no idea why I was interested in this thing. So now I'm getting all of the experience I didn't have as a child. I played Ultima, I played all the Ultimas, but I rage quit the first 3. Sorry. But I've beaten 4 and 5, and I beat 6. But it's like there's this whole world out there that I never knew about when I was a kid, because my world was Carmen Sandiego and whatever Mech put out, whatever my dad could get cracked copies of from his friends or somebody had at school. And it was pretty much all, how to build a car and test it in a wind tunnel. And now I'm getting like a second childhood out of this, and it's very cool.
Absolutely.
Carmen Sandiego's fabulous.
I think kind of microcomputers are really cool, do not get me wrong, but I think that one of the experiences that are best preserved in events like this, and things that I've really appreciated being able to do, is all of the experiences on Big Iron. Because you can kind of do it at home. It's not the same as sitting in front of a terminal. It's not the same as like hearing that teletype go. It's not the same as somebody with their PDP-11 with like, oh, we've got it set up so we can take like a picture of you, and then we'll turn it into like an ASCII printout and things. And those type of experiences, it's more than even kind of like doing the software side of things, like the tactile experience of some of these things that eventually will be lost if we don't work to preserve them. And so it's really, really great that people put in that big effort to get all of that very expensive and very rare and difficult to maintain equipment here, so that people can really sit down and play around with it. Last year, there was a big Colossal Cave. Like that was kind of like there were several things set up where you could sit down and play Colossal Cave, and that was a good time. And the Alto and all of that. So really, really appreciate it, and thank you so much to those people that make those experiences possible, because it's not undercutting anybody else's contributions, but it's like it's so special, and that's so important that people can see that.
Ooh, I got a good segue question back here. So a lot of you talked about community now and the value of what's come before. What do you see, or in your mind, as the future of retro, right?
Ooh,
so what kind of voices, what kind of representation?
She's been waiting for this one.
Yeah.
What does this look like in 10 years?
So I don't know if you all are paying attention to like a lot of the indie games that are coming out right now, but there are so many awesome low poly pixel games that are coming out in the indie scene. And honestly, I'm paying more attention to those games than like a lot of AAA titles right now. Like when I went to PAX East a couple of weeks ago, a ton of like indie developers and even some like, bigger game developers are making games that have that retro look, that Mina the Hollower is a great one by Yacht Club Games that literally looks like a Game Boy Advance game. Or like Mega Cat Studio they're printing games in Super Nintendo carts or Sega Genesis carts. VG Soft, which is a video game company, they have a video game store, Video Games New York, in New York, downtown, and they publish Dreamcast games. So there's a ton of people making either games now, and there's Amiga games that are constantly coming out. Like somebody just made Eye of the Beholder for Commodore 64, and somebody just made Castlevania for the Amiga, right? So there are tons of people right now making games either for older consoles or games that look retro and in the spirit of retro. And I think that's the most exciting thing right now.
Yeah, you said, and Nox Archaeus. Somebody, there's a whole team. They wrote it's a love letter to Ultima. It's basically Ultima, but with a modern sensibility, and they're working on a sequel because it was so popular.
Yeah. Or a lot of games are being remastered, like Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3. Wizardry is being remastered. Apogee is still making games. I just did a panel with the person who founded Apogee, and they're making tons of awesome new games. Wizordium looks just like Hexen. So, yeah, there's a lot of cool things out there.
And I like to keep my streams family friendly because I think it's really important that people like my age watch it with their kids, and actually a lot of people do, which is really exciting. So I got a lot of friends who are like, "Oh, I watched my stream with your daughter, and she's really into it." And I bought her an A500 Mini, and now she's totally stoked about Amiga. I'm like, "That's awesome." And then my other friend, he watches with his two sons. I call them Amiga sons, and I flew over to Germany for Amiga Germany, and we hung out together at the show, and it was super cool. And they're into Amiga as well because they're also into filmmaking. So they're learning about the history of Amiga and Genlocks and how we used it and the video toaster because they didn't have that in Europe. So they're like, "Oh, this is how it all began," and now we have all this cool filmmaking equipment. So I really like to make sure that my streams are family friendly so the kids can enjoy it as well, because the nostalgia is a big part of it for me, right? So, but those kids don't have nostalgia for Amiga or Commodore 64 or whatever vintage computer it is. So it's important to get them introduced to it to keep it alive.
Yeah, I feel like the people who grew up with this stuff find the nostalgia, but also, and almost surprisingly, but maybe not, younger generations find the aesthetic of these old things. There's just a certain kind of feeling you can get from older games, limited graphics, stuff like that just doesn't exist in photorealistic, GTA, whatever GTA 6 is going to look like. It's not the same, yeah.
I think in 10 years, if you come back to VCF East in 10 years, tickets available now, what you will see multiple tables. Hold on, I'm divining from the future here. You'll see multiple tables that have cell phones and PDAs, and it will be the only place you can come to play Fruit Ninja on original hardware.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
I mean,
Flappy
you
Bird.
laugh, but
Yeah, Flappy Bird. It's and it's a kind of a joke, but in the same time, it's not, because I think that those experiences, while it might be are still important to the hobby, because it's their cultural zeitgeist, kind of Angry Birds and things like that. That people are going to look back at that with a lot of nostalgia and be like, wouldn't it be really cool if you can kind of do that type of stuff? And so with hardware emulation and with games and things like that, as online services go offline, and as things age out of app stores because developers don't want to do that anymore, the preservation side of that is going to shift to a lot of, we've got these generic hardware platforms, but now we've got to think about how do we make sure that future generations can play Raid Shadow Legends?
Oh, God. Well,
if there's got to be a way.
when we're all walking around with our Apple headsets on, some sort of horrible dystopian sci-fi novel.
VCF 2070, those things will be retro. So I think that might be all the time we have for questions. I don't know. I've never done this before. Oh. All right. Well, I don't know about any of that, but I would just like to thank the panelists today. Thank you so much. This was a really great chat. We really
Thank
learned
you
a
all
lot
for
about
coming.
each other.
Yeah, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
this was a lot of fun.
Ron, you're like I've got an Amiga exhibit with my buddy Dave here all weekend, so stop by and see 18 feet of Amiga goodness. We call it. We got 3 tables.
Yes.
And then and Ron, I think you're a part of an exhibit as well, right?
Yes. If you come back to the Macintosh shenanigans corner of what it's building C or what building is it?
I got some stickers.
Okay. Yeah. Oh well, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad. It's, there's plenty of stickers to be had by all. But yeah, there's a demonstration back there. They're doing cool stuff. Sean's got neat things going on. Steve's got neat things going on. Our friend Mike from Mike's Mess has got neat things going on. And I'll be standing there, maybe answering questions. Who knows? Was it even the answer to the question you asked? You'll have to find out.
Tune in next time.
42.
I'm sorry?
I said the answer to the question is always 42.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good
right.
point. Yeah. And that's all the time we have.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.